What up? It's Sweez, back with part 2 today. Hey, had to cut in quick because I realized something I probably should have put in video 1. There is another option. You can still use Traktor and CDJs. You don't have to completely abandon Traktor. There's something called HID mode, and I couldn't get it to work, so I'm not going to explain it to you, but it really is the best of both worlds. You get the gated hotkeys, you get the tempo function that's more like just moving a parameter than actually adjusting something on a turntable. But yeah, I had too many problems with audio and no CDJs to properly test it on. So if you have CDJs and you can test it and you can get Traktor to work, all for you. But back to abandoning Traktor. So I wanted to do today really quick just to go over some Rekordbox settings and briefly how to make a USB. I'm still not the Rekordbox like god or whatever, but just wanted to give you some basic info how you can get your Rekordbox to be a little bit more like Traktor and how to make that first USB. It's not going to be a definitive guide, but it should get you pretty close. And once again, I am not going to update Rekordbox today. Not sure when you're supposed to do it, but today's not the day. So you can maybe see I already played with some settings. This font is a little bit bigger, and I will show you how to do that. That's not one of the settings I was planning on showing you, but it's on there. So if you go to View, that's where we're going to start everything. Plan and Cloud you shouldn't really need to play with unless you're going to go past the free plan. The free plus plan, which you see right up here, that's what you get when you unlock your hardware, and that should get you anything you need besides some cloud stuff, I think. So if you go to View, here's the font size that I already played with. You can make it bigger, bold, not bold, to whatever your eyes need to see. I like it just a little bit bigger. Change the line spacing. Show the selected track to the center. I don't have my controller plugged in, but if I was scrolling, it would always be in the center. I don't like that much. I kind of like to line up where my track is and what I can see if I'm seeing lower BPMs or higher BPMs. I always sort by BPM. So I will leave that unchecked. Key display. Classic is your regular keys. Alphanumeric is your Camelot wheel. I like classic keys. Waveform drawing rate. I got a decent computer. I'm going to put it back down to medium speed. You're not going to see a whole lot, but just to save this medium computer, you know what? I'll leave it on high speed. It haven't been a problem yet. Okay, so waveform view. Let me load up a couple tracks so you can see this. Okay. If you always thought the waveforms in Rekordbox look super weird, you're not alone, because I did too. And the reason is because it's showing you half the waveform. If you want to see the full waveform, then boom. There, now it looks more like Traktor. But this is what it's going to be like on CDJs, a half waveform, I think, if I can remember correctly. So I'm going to leave it on half waveform. It's not a huge deal for me. Beat counting, if you want this number to read from your cue points instead of from the beginning of the file, you can change that. If you click over here to layout, still on view, you can start to clean up this media browser. If you don't use Beatport, Tidal, iTunes, SoundCloud, Beat Source, you can get rid of all that right here. A lot of people still use iTunes, which I really enjoy. I don't, but if you use iTunes, super props to you. It might even be easier to transition from Rekordbox and Traktor. I don't know, but you can leave all that stuff in here. I'm going to turn it all off. Sync rate, I'm not entirely sure. It just looks like it's changing the view of my beat sync. If you go crazy on your phrases, you can use these. I do all my phrases in my head, I think. This is for phrase markers, which I'm not using. It's another Pioneer specific thing. If you go down to effects, have both of them. I don't know why you wouldn't want both of them. Customize more waveforms and pad stuff, which is more than you would get in Traktor. Even going over here to color. The one you are going to want to look at is waveform color. You can change that to blue, 3-band, or RGB, which I think is going to be the closest to Traktor, and I already had that set to RGB. So that's where we're going to leave it. Audio, we're not going crazy here. Analysis, I don't know, have it all on. It should be set. Your default setting should be fine here. Yeah, here's phrase. So if you want to use phrase markers, I don't think I'm using them. It's not a Traktor thing, so I'm not worried about it right now. Load lock, I like this, so I'm going to leave it on. Needle lock, I'm going to leave that on. Load. Playback starts at memory hot cue nearest to beginning of track. Okay, I finally found it. My load marker. So if you set one hot cue and you want that to be the start where your song loads, you check this. Now the other thing is not all of these settings you can export to your USB. So we're going to circle back to this, and I just want to focus on the small settings that go to my USB because I want my Traktor and Rekordbox to be, or excuse me, I want my Rekordbox to be as similar to playing on CDJs as possible. I will check instant doubles. I don't play with them that much, but it's not something I typically screw up. So I'm gonna leave it on for now and see how I like it. Auto cue level, that's if you're gonna do the auto mixing. Vinyl speed adjust. This is probably something you didn't have in Traktor. I think vinyl speed and touch break and that stuff was an effect, but it wasn't actually something, you know, that was a part of the controller like it was supposed to be with record players. So this is your release and start and touch break times. You can play with that however much you like. I'm going to do it on my controller, so I'm not going to adjust it here. Jog speed, you should probably have that set to 33. Continuous playing, if you want your tracks to load when you're done, check that on. That's more of a auto mix thing, so you can leave that unchecked like me. Okay, so beat sync and BPM sync. If you're coming from Traktor, you're going to want to pay attention to this because you're probably going to forget it too, like I am. And I just had to look it up again. So BPM sync is just changing the tempo to match the tempo of the song that's playing. Beat sync adds quantization into the factor. So when you hit that cue, it's playing the same time as that cue marker on the beat grid, or it's going to always line up the beat grid. So beat sync will always quantize those beat grids, and then you can't nudge it. So you might want BPM sync to be on if that's the case. I'm going to play around with it. If all of your grids are perfect, beat sync should be fine. Coming from Traktor, I'm nervous because all my beat grids were not fine. But in Rekordbox, they have been so much better. So I might leave it on beat sync, see what I like, and see if that is a setting that I can move over on my USB. Same for this hot cue function. This is what I was talking about in the first video, where it's a gated cue on Traktor if the deck is paused, but if it's played, it is a regular cue that keeps playing. If you like that function, you can turn it on. I am trying to get used to Rekordbox, so I am leaving it off. Auto beat loop, this is another thing for your auto mixing, and if you're interested in that, I'm not the person to give that to you. Digital DJ Tips has great walkthroughs. I'm pretty sure they have one on auto mixing on Pioneer, which is going to be a lot of these preferences. So I'm trying to skip over as much of those as possible. Going over here to keyboard, this is your keyboard shortcuts. And I don't use a lot of these. I use play and pause, and that is about it. And I showed you that load is exactly the same as Traktor. So you can change them if you want. You can leave them. You can just learn them how they are. Look in here and see what they are. Those are your keyboard shortcuts. DVS and extensions are not going to be in this video. Advanced, and I don't even think there's anything in here unless you're really big into your iTunes library and that's how you're doing it. If you want to use a tag list like it's a preparation list in Traktor. I never really use them, but I'm trying to get better at it, especially on CDJs. So these are two settings that I want to check so that my tag list is always fresh and doesn't have songs I'm repeating. So that's something I'm going to dive deeper on at another date and play with it on CDJs and see if I like it or not. And in other, there isn't a whole lot here. There is SoundCloud title, in-flight, which I haven't even played with yet. Automatic removal. Yeah, I'm not going to play with anything in here. The main ones that you should be looking at if you're coming from Traktor like I am are this hot cue, this gated hot cue, and the view functions. All right, now I want to look at making a USB, and once again, it's not a definitive guide, but I'm going to try to get you super close. You'll already see I'm sorting things by bit depth. Why am I doing that? So there's a constant debate on whether or not CDJs can handle 24-bit tracks. And the short answer is yes, but there's a giant asterisk on there, and I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. So here I am in the Pioneer CDJ manual, and here you can see that this is the XDJ, because I think I can borrow this one and test. The wave is handled all the way up to 24-bit and 48, And even if I go back to the 2000, not the NXS 2000, the hat can sample 48 and 24-bit. And of course, the NX2 can sample up all the way to FLAC. But the problem is, I think, and I'm trying to get a good answer on this, is Bandcamp files. And everyone tries to get super high quality Bandcamp files, as they should, but it's a way that they encode the 24-bit that doesn't allow them to be played on CDJs for whatever reason. So based on that, I think that all of my 24-bit files I downloaded off Bandcamp will not play on CDJs. Mine, because these files came right out of Ableton Live, and I'm pretty sure Charlie's did too, Mr. Obegre, he's in here somewhere in the 24-bit files. Those should play, but I don't think any of these others in between will not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round up all these 24-bit files and my FLAC files. You can find FLAC files by going to File Type, and then you can sort, and you can find all your FLAC files over here. And I'm not going to do them all right now, but I'm going to start with a few files. Let's start with these 24 bits, mix of wave and FLAC. I want to make them all 16-bit, so I'm going to select all. I haven't tried this on Rekordbox, so let's see if this works. New folder. We're going to call this Downsamples. See if I can just drag them in. No way. That worked. It's 10 gigs of files, but it is going to be a lot less. So now let's organize by file type and bit depth. Oh, it doesn't let me do that. That's a bummer. In Traktor, you could organize by 2 parameters. In Rekordbox, it looks like you can only organize by 1, but that's okay. I'm going to take all these FLAC files. I don't need the 24-bit ones, or you know what? They'll be fine. We just won't overwrite them. I don't know if that worked. There we go. We're going to skip all the duplicates. All right, let's see how many. I got 400 files to downsample, so I don't want to do all of those in this video, but we will do some of them. I just want to show you a quick way, my favorite way to edit audio files, and that is Ocenaudio. I'm just going to take the first couple. You know what? Let's not go FLAC files. I'm not going to try and tell you how to convert a FLAC file the right way, because I'm sure there's going to be some audio file who knows better than I do. Let's just grab a couple Brick Squash tracks. Why not? I'm going to load those into Ocenaudio. That's my favorite audio editor. It's free. You can use it. You can donate. You can do whatever you want. Now that I got them in Ocenaudio, all I'm going to do is save them as an MP3. Control-Shift-Save, MP3. And I'm going to put them in this downsample folder. Now, there's probably an easier way to just convert these to 16-bit. I'm not going to play with it here. It's probably the exact same way I'm doing it right now, but I've got too many files on this hard drive already, so I think 320 MP3s are totally fine. Make sure you're at constant bit, never check variable bit recording, 32-bit, never go lower. Now, unfortunately, it's not as easy as I wanted it to be. I was really hoping that this tool still existed. It was a wave patcher, which was made exactly for the purpose of changing these 24-bit waves to still 24-bit waves, but taking out the part that Bandcamp put in there that Rekordbox wouldn't support. This is now archived, so you can't use it. You've got to kind of go through and do each file one by one. But you know what? That's okay for now. I might get pissed since I have 400 tracks, but I'm not trying to play all 400 of those right now. So let's pretend you did all of your downsamples, and you're going to do what I do and create a new playlist called Downsamples. And the theory behind this folder is anytime a song in a CDJ does not load, you have a backup of at least an MP3 in this folder. Let's go to Downsamples. I'm going to grab those 2 Brick Squash songs. And now I'm going to make a playlist of 2 songs. Excuse me, I'm going to export a playlist of 2 songs. If you're on a MacBook, you also need an adapter. Or you need a USB-C fancy drive, like those new DJ Tech Tools ones, but I don't have that yet. Got your USB stick, and actually what I'm going to do first is quit Rekordbox, because what Rekordbox does is it hijacks your USB, and I don't feel comfortable ejecting my USB or even having Rekordbox, so I got to start fresh. And I mean, I'm a step away from restarting the entire computer before I do any of this. So let's now reopen Rekordbox now that my USB drive has been read. I probably would have been okay, but better safe than sorry. All right, this device library plus. Rekordbox expert could probably explain it to you better than I can, but the way I understand it is this is mostly for those new Alpha Theta products. I've heard of people not using device plus and it's screwing things up. You essentially have two libraries, so I would use it. I don't need auto analysis. There's no audio on this drive, so that's fine. Or there is, but I'm not going to use it. So before I export songs, since I'm here, I could show you how to do all the settings. You're going to go over to the side, devices. This is my external. I don't want that one. I want this one. And you can change some stuff for CDJs. Active categories. Start taking some stuff out of here, I think. What would always worry me is when I could not sort by BPM. But it is over here, so I think I'm okay. Actually, here, sort. Now I've got it here, and I'm okay. If you need some extra stuff like comments, if you use those, you can put that over. I used to use them. I'm trying to get away from it. If I really need to know something about a song, I put it in the title, which is something I'll show you here coming up. The default right column, I think I want BPM. The only problem I had was not being able to see the artist, so maybe I want artist here. But I think I only get 2 columns on a CDJ, and I'd rather see title and BPM. So let's leave that at BPM. And my settings gives me nothing. Great. If you want to change your comment color, that's in there too. Cutting in a couple hours later after editing and figuring some stuff out. I was about to miss something huge, and I kind of found it at the very end of the video. So yeah, changing the mode over here to export, that's how you get my settings to show up in devices. Yeah, see, this was all blank before, and now there's stuff here. If I change this mode to performance, it's funny how they hide all this stuff. So okay, it just shows you in there what your settings are. If you want to change them, you go into preferences under my settings, then in DJ system, excuse me. Then you can go in and find all the stuff like load lock. I want to make sure that's on. Let's see if some of that Traktor stuff is in here. I'm not seeing the gated hot queue, which is a bummer. That's okay. I wanted to get used to it anyway. But it does have hot queue auto load, so that means I will get my load markers back. And once again, I wouldn't go changing too much stuff if you don't know what you're doing. But if you know something that you're looking for, you can find a in-depth tutorial and it'll be in there somewhere. I'm looking for mostly the Traktor stuff, which I think I gave you. So let's quickly talk about song titles. So what I'm used to seeing on a CDJ is this column and this column only. So if I had something like this with artist, EP, and then song title, I would not be able to see all that on a CDJ. So let's go over here and put funk bias and take out all of these except for one funk bias, just in case I don't see the artist column on a CDJ. That's how I want everything to look. I'm not going to go through everything now, as I should, but yeah. Organize your library, organize your track titles. It'll help you a million. All right, let's finally talk about exporting a USB because they changed it on me. You have to go up here now. instead of going down here first, because it only gave me this dumb wireless export thing, which I'm never going to use. If you click that, then you see the regular sync manager, which you're used to. So I'm going to... Now, I haven't used this USB before, so if everything is grayed out for you like it is here, you click on this arrow. Click on this checkbox, synchronize playlist with this device. There's always a dumb thing in here that you gotta find. So there we go. Down samples, we're gonna sync it over. It's 2 songs. It should be done instantly. But it's not. It's still analyzing, it's still taking some time. Man, all right, there we go. One thing to note is, like I started a fresh instance of Rekordbox when I plugged in my USB, your USB is hostage. And even though it says it's done down there, I don't believe it. So I'm going to quit Rekordbox. I am going to my drive, which is right here, and I'm exporting it. Don't forget that, especially if you're on a Mac. It can screw up hard drives for whatever reason and flash drives. So export it when you're done with it. Then you can unplug it and you're good to go. Hopefully that made some sense. I'm still getting used to some things. Once again, I'm always welcome to receive some tips down in the comments. These videos will just hopefully keep getting better and better. We'll see you next time.